Hey guys, this is Burton Posey with Addo Games, and I'm currently working on a game called Robot Slow Ice Cream, and we're using Unity, and we're also using for our tool pipeline we use Maya and Photoshop. And I wanted to shoot a video tutorial. I'm actually shooting this for somebody on our team, but I also wanted to just make it public and hopefully people can learn something from it. And if you have any questions or feedback, I'd love to hear it. This is just a process that we use and we've been using since we started the project in June of 2011. So we're coming up on a full 2 years. Um, anyway, this series of videos is going to be concerned with taking these guys, figuring out how optimized they are, and figuring out how to best lay out the UVs. We want to um, do a couple things in particular that we do with all of our models, as well as, and one of those things is we mirror geometry across the center axis to give us more real estate. We usually exclude some of the faces from that mirroring so that we can get asymmetrical details on the face. And we also do ambient occlusion bakes. That's part of the responsibility of whoever does the UV unwrapping. And for most of the project, that's been me. And then we've had some other people come in. So that's why I'm one of the reasons why I'm shooting this video is to help them understand the pipeline. But hopefully it'll help other people as well. So I am just going to work on this guy for the sake of this tutorial. He's a projectile enemy. We had some I don't even know if they're still in here. We had some rocket arms on him, but we're going to keep them a little similar, or simpler. Yeah, there they are. We're going to keep them a little simpler for now. And that's based on discussions that we've had elsewhere. So I'm just going to hide those guys, and I'm actually going to be exporting this guy. So first thing I'll do to get started, I like to work away from other models. I don't like to have a lot of assets in the same scene that aren't concerned with themselves. One of the reasons is if I have a rig or something like that, I like to hit delete. I delete all history a lot or delete on selected. And sometimes I'll just spam that while I'm working. And you can destroy your weights on a rig on a bound mesh. So we'll avoid that. So I'm just going to go ahead and start by exporting this guy. This is my tool shelf. A lot of these are from an older version of Maya and a different computer, so some of these won't even work. Um, so we've already got a folder structure set up for these guys. I use the same folder structure for all of the assets for the game. We have a repository and Subversion for our assets, and then we have another one that's for Unity, so we can keep our source assets apart from our production assets. So once they're ready to go, we'll just copy them over on an as needed basis. And this way we get to keep all of our concepts out of the Unity project and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and export this guy. He's going to be a source model and we'll just keep it. I'm going to work as, I'm going to try to just go ahead as a FBX file so that hopefully we don't have compatibility issues. I think one of our artists was reporting that they were having compatibility issues with my 2014 files I was exporting. So I will just work in FBX. And so I'm going to go ahead and open that. This guy has a bunch of different pieces. First thing I'll go ahead and do is just combine them all, center the pivot. I'm going to move it to the center using the grid snap or the zero origin. And I took those rocket arms off, and so we're missing some caps on these guys. I'll just use fill hole on both of these. I'm actually about to delete half of this model because we're going to mirror to allow us to, mirroring allows us to lay out the details for half of the model, and we can mirror the assets over and save on that space. We won't have to, we'll get twice the detail in half of this. Is that right? We'll get all of the detail in having to only paint half of it, more or less. So we need to look at this and figure out if we have symmetry. The first thing I see is that not 100% sure this is centered. I'm going to go ahead and extract this. I'm going to check I get a lot of parenting issues when I do extract. That's why I had another function or another mel script that I'll have to dig up that's called detach and separate that was really nice. But I'm going to unparent those, delete the history, and just make sure that this guy is centered. He doesn't look like he's centered to me for some reason. He's not. All right, let's go and check, make sure that looks like I do need to move that guy back. I'll just undo that. But he is centered along a mirrored edge there. I think he is. I'm worried about this line through here. Anyway, I'll come back to that if I need to. And I can also, when I delete half of this, I'll go ahead and do that now actually. So you want perfect symmetry along this. This is the YZ plane, Z and then the Y is up. So let's select all of these edges, go into the front mode, and let's just go ahead and I can see right there, snap those to that axis using, I use when you select all these guys, you can, with the transform tool, hold down the X key, and that will be your grid snap. So you can see I'm snapping to these grid segments. That's why it's good to work right around the grid. It's also why I don't turn the grid off most of the time. All right. We're also missing a center line on this division. There's nothing that would sit right here on this axis I want to mirror across. So what I'm going to do is go to edge ring and split. Just go into the edge tool. I'm holding control on Mac and edge ring into edge ring and split. And so we should get a center line that we can use. The next thing I want to do is do want to figure out why this is sort of pinching here light wise. Make sure that we've got make sure that goes away eventually. Don't like to have anything affect that lighting. I'm going to go ahead and take this mohawk off too. I'm going to extract that. I don't want that to get in the way of the rest of this. I'm just going to hide it for a moment. So I think at this point, oh, this guy needs to be split too. One thing I'm going to do is take a look at part of the responsibility of whoever does this is to make sure we're not wasting any space. We don't have to unwrap things that aren't visible. So in this case, I think I've looked at this before and I noticed something. If I isolate this, no, it's okay. It's self-contained. I may have already cleaned that up. But I think at one point we had some inside faces that will never see the light of day. So just check this guy too. Make sure that's not closed on the inside. All right. So I think another thing we had too is, I'll come back and do that in the next video, but I'll check our reference and make sure that this guy is at the right height. I think we had this pushed down a little bit. I'll just go ahead and do that. Still kind of worried about that fold there. I'm not quite sure why that's doing that. So yeah, the first part of this is always going to be, in our pipeline, is always going to be checking things, making sure that things are, seem normal. I was kind of worried about that shading, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and at this point I'm going to delete half of the model. One thing you want to do is you want to save a lot. I'm actually going to, until I hand this off to the other guys, I'm going to just go ahead and save as a my ASCII. And the reason being is I use the Command S key a lot to save, and the FBX support doesn't support just you have to export instead of just save. And when you do that, if you hit Command S and you get this error right here, if you notice in my file the FBX is gone, it just actually deleted my FBX file. So just imagine if the application crashed and you had just done this, you would not have a file to even go back to. So it's kind of terrifying thought. So I'm just going to save it as an unwrap, and that way I can continually spam this save key. We've got a face in here that we don't need. I think that may have been the one I was looking at earlier. We've got, let's see, I can't really get rid of that. I can move this edge up. Just want to make sure we honor the contour that the artists were going for originally. Probably want to figure out something to do with this. I usually don't like to have straight edges. This is effectively a triangle, but we've got an intersection. I'd rather just go ahead and connect that myself. You're obviously breaking the quads. See, these are not, so that's more of a quad there. Let's get rid of these guys on the bottom. Let's see if any of that's peeking through. It is. I think what I'm going to do is I'm still going to go ahead and delete those, but I'm going to move this edge inward. That'll all just appear. That'll be fine in once I unwrap in the UVs. Let's see, we've got the same number of faces on this as this. So what I think I'm going to do here is actually going to extract these guys. Just going to go ahead and delete all history by type. That's down in here somewhere. Delete all by type history. I just have these on the shelf for my convenience. So what I'm going to do is combine these guys. Actually, I need to unparent them first. This stuff is so annoying. I guess that's the mohawk. Let's just call that mohawk. I think I've got it hidden. Body. Keep my sanity. I still have no idea why these are. Alright, I'm gonna unhide these real quick. Everything. Just make sure that I don't have anything connected to anything else. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete these. Do not like those, they're like pretty much empty and transforms. So, alright, getting back to this guy. Let's combine these guys together. Delete the history so those transforms aren't a concern of mine. And I'm going to figure out how to position this guy so I can actually intersect these. Because it's actually going to be, you'll see in a little bit, but it'll actually make the ambient occlusion bake a little easier. I'm sure we'll have some other, I know there'll be some other places where this stuff will happen, but for now I think it's, you can run into less artifact issues with your ambient occlusion if you go ahead and you have a welded edges as opposed to buried geometry. So I'm just going to go ahead and make those quads on the end there. So I just deleted all these faces, and now we're going to connect these edges to these since the resolution of these cylinder forms match up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the bridge tool. I'm holding shift and right click, and now I'm going to just check my settings real quick. No divisions, sounds good. And just keep doing that. Hit the G key. Actually, you know what? I don't want to do that because I'm going to I'm just going to use the pen to polygon tool and select the edges now, because it won't, if I keep bridging between these two, you'll end up with duplicate edges on the end. So anyway, I'm just hitting that G key, hitting these edges. And you can see I've got, you know, it's closing these edges here. Otherwise you would get a green line that you could connect to it. And then for this last guy, I'll just do bridge. Or not, that's not what I wanted to do. Fill hole. All right, so we have those guys. Let's go ahead and select this edge ring, and we'll soften those edges so that's nice and smooth. Cool, that piece is done. The only other thing I want to look at is I want to minimize wherever possible the amount of places where things are sticking through. If this guy was going to be, if this whole piece right here was going to be really, let me move this pivot back just to demonstrate. If this piece was going to be back here and it was going to be rotating out, we would, you know, we'd need to make sure it was deep enough to account for this poking out here. But I don't think it's going to, so I'll just leave it there. I think that's fine. That's not a big deal. One of the things that I have to remind myself is to make sure that we, you know, you spend enough time, but you don't spend so much time that you're not getting all of your work done. So for this guy, for the mohawk, I'm actually going to select this edge and then control and right click, and I'm going to go to edge ring and split so I can have that split down the middle. And then I'm going to just eyeball the faces on the side. I'm going to switch to front view. Make sure these guys are all lined up on the axis, these inside verts. Looks like they were pretty close, but not quite, or they're overlapping. With this guy, I'm going to move these over. I'm going to, I've got the D key held down to move the pivot point here. I'm going to click on the x-axis, and then I'm going to, with the D key still held down, I'm going to hold down the V key now, and I'm going to middle mouse click on one of these border edges, and it's going to snap right to it, but it's only going to move this pivot point along the x-axis because that's the active axis, the yellow axis. And now when I let go, I can move this guy. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'll just move it out a little bit, and I'll need to move this guy out to compensate as well. I'm going to go ahead and save again. Actually, delete all my history and save. So this form right here, we need to keep an eye on. I'm actually going to isolate this form here. Make sure. I think it's actually, yeah, there we go. What did I do wrong there? Keep spacing. All right, I'm going to hit Shift-I to drop out of isolate. Shift-I is isolate perspective, and then with nothing selected, it's going to drop back out of it. All right, I think we're doing pretty good. I still haven't fixed this edge here. I was a little concerned about it originally because there was some awkward shading. I'm going to use the append to polygon tool here and go from here to here. I think as long as our edges are softened, we should have, looks like we got rid of that dark edge that was there. All right, I think I'm pretty happy with this. Um, in the next tutorial, actually, I'm going to go ahead and close this. I don't like to have any chances that somebody's going to see some open geometry. I'm going to extrude the edges. Convert this to a vertex selection, and then I'm going to just merge them in the center. So this is all just one vert, and I'm going to just snap it in line with this on that center axis that we're trying to strive for. Last thing I'll do before I stop this tutorial is I'm going to, or this part of the tutorial is just double check my edge, make sure all my um, edges are nice and smooth and hard, and then they're hard where I want them to as well. That one looks really strange to me. Should be 3 edges. It is 3 edges. Maybe this one's not. I think that was it. Nope. Looks a little hard there and soft on the edge. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and stop the tutorial here, and I will pick back up from here where we'll go in and start we'll start unwrapping this and as a whole unit, and I'll just show you the process there. Thanks.